another Scarlet Letter video! Today, we will be connecting on 3 very meaningful topics of our choice in The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne.
Uncovering one symbol of shame that eventually becomes a powerful statement.
Emotion, womanhood, and ambiguity. One story, one Scarlet Letter. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to share with all of your friends to learn more about the Scarlet Letter. This bad boy right here. But before we get into the world of the Scarlet Letter, let's learn more about the author Nathaniel Hawthorne.
He was born in Salem, Massachusetts, which is famous for Gothic witch trials, influencing his writing styles. This is also in New England, where the Scarlet Letter is set.
Because of this trials, he added a W to his last name to set him apart for the witch trials.
Wait, but what is the Scarlet Letter about?
Well, we are here to tell you. Set in the 17th century in a New England town, a woman named Hester Prynne, who has a baby, but her husband had been missing for years.
She's eventually unaccepted from the town because she will not name the father and is branded with a scarlet letter A embroidered on her chest.
But why does she wear the A?
Oh, so the A is a symbol representing the sin of adultery that she committed to publicly shame her and mark her as an outcast in the community that she lives in. But while everyone is judging her, she stays strong and grows off the shame.
What's up, guys? My name's Emma, and I'm going to be talking about the power of ambiguity in The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. When we read The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne, one thing becomes very clear. Nothing in the story has just one meaning. The book is filled with ambiguity, which means being open to more than one interpretation. But why does that matter?
Why? Why?
Ambiguity keeps readers questioning what's real, what's imagined, and what lies between. It shows that truth and morality aren't just black and white. They're very complex, layered, and deeply human. Before I get into some specific moments in the book, I'm going to give a shout out to some articles. The first one, The Scarlet Letter, The Power of Ambiguity by Fred H. Marcus. And the second one, Honor, Shame, and Identity by Peter A. French. And I'll be referencing these articles later on. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about the book and the different scenes in the book that show ambiguity. The first scene I'm going to be talking about is the glowing A meteor scene, where a glowing A lights up the town. Dimmesdale's perspective on page 154, he says, "Not but the meteor may have shown itself at that point, burning duskily through a veil of cloud, but with no such shape as his guilty imagination gave it, or at least with so little definiteness that others' guilt might have seen another symbol in it." So in Dimmesdale's perspective, it's his guilt that the A is showing, and to him that meteor is like making his sin and guilt worse. And then another perspective on page 157, it says, "But did your reverence hear of the portent that was seen last night? A great red letter in the sky, the letter A, which we interpret to stand for angel." So their perspective is the A isn't for sin, it's actually for angel, because the governor passed away, and I think it's a sign that the governor is putting like an A for angel in the sky. So now I'm going to be talking about the actual Scarlet Letter's meaning. So at the beginning of the book, this letter is representing her shame and her sin that she committed, adultery. But by the end of the book, it is seen as a sign of strength and resilience that Hester has gone through. So in one of the articles I mentioned before, The Scarlet Letter, The Power of Ambiguity by Fred H. Marcus, he says, "The Scarlet Letter, beginning with the ubiquitous A itself, is permitted with symbolic content." And then he goes on to say, Hawthorne uses his symbol with great care, putting it where it is most needed and making it possibly the most dominating symbol in all literature. And that's on page 451 to 452. And he's kind of showing us how the A constantly shifts in meaning. It starts as sin and then ends as like strength and spirituality. And that further shows Hawthorne's deliberate ambiguity. Okay, another big character in The Scarlet Letter is Pearl. She goes back and forth between evil and good. She appears very crazy and mischievous at the beginning, and then throughout the story we're shown her inner strength, pride, and truth. And Hawthorne still leaves us unsure whether she's a punishment for Hester's sin or a symbol of goodness and honesty. So on page 91, it shows her evil side. So it says, Pearl was a born outcast of the infertile world, an imp of evil, emblem and product of sin. She had no right among christened infants. So that kind of shows they all thought that she was evil, and she was just a punishment for Hester's sin.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
And then on page 179, it says, in the little chaos of Pearl's character, there might be seen emerging and could have been from the very first the steadfast principle of an unflinching courage. So they're basically saying throughout her lifetime, she is able to gain more pride and courage and is no longer a punishment. She's now a symbol of goodness, which is a really good sign of ambiguity. And also connecting to Pearl, in the other article, Honor, Shame, and Identity by Peter A. French, he says, shame is an inevitable part of being female. So his observation of shame is inevitable shows how Hester's motherhood both dooms and redeems her. So Pearl's mischievous and pure sides reflect the duality in human nature. So the last moment I'm going to be talking about is when Dimmesdale reveals the mark on his chest, or maybe not. We'll never know. On page 257, it says, most of the spectators testified to having seen on the breast of an unhappy minister a scarlet letter, the very semblance of that worn by Hester Prynne. So some people say that they've seen the actual scarlet letter on his chest, but on page 258 it says, certain persons who are spectators of the whole scene and professed never once to have removed their eyes from Mr. Dimmesdale denied that there was any mark whatsoever on his breast at all. So Hawthorne keeps us in mystery, and it's never even confirmed in the story.
Seriously? Yeah.
Hawthorne is leaving it up in the open for us to make our own conclusions. Now you should be able to write a beautiful essay on ambiguity in the Scarlet Letter.
What's going on, guys? It's Alex here, and today I'll be connecting on my very meaningful topic in the Scarlet Letter of the roles of the womanhood throughout the Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. The author uses the main character, Hester Prynne, to explore how woman is judged, silenced, and independent throughout the whole entire book. This shows how women's emotions are both powerful and punishment. In my section of the video, I'll be referencing these 4 articles throughout the whole entire section, and I think these 4 definitely would give you the advantage to learn more about the power of women in that I learned from. I found how women are silenced and left to suffer in isolation in this novel, particularly Hester Prynne, the main character, and I feel like that kind of reflected how the women's voices are very powerless and they're not heard as much as the main character, the man of Dimmesdale. In the book, we see a lot that women are silenced, especially Hester Prynne at the beginning of the book, where she had to stand on a scaffold and show her adultery to the whole town. Person says that women are customarily silenced in male authoritative text in order to be rendered powerless, meaning that her voices wasn't heard throughout the entire story until the end, but it's customarily changed for the men that didn't have to say his sin. During the book, Hawthorne mentions on page 164 that the same dark question often rose to her mind with the whole reference to the race of womanhood, meaning that she wondered what was fair from her to a man.
Luca! Bueno? Piñu! Bueno? Piñu! Bueno? Piñu!
As I already mentioned, Hester literally had to face her sin openly to the crowd from day one, but didn't even want to reveal Dimmesdale to the entire town because she respected him. Good woman, period. So he suffered privately, and that kind of contrasted the visible punishment between women and then Dimsdale's hidden guilt. Dimsdale even at one point gets mad at her on page 191 where he says, "Happy are you, Hester, that wear the scarlet upon your bosom? Mine burns in secret." Hawthorne really shows in this novel like a lot of women's strength. At the beginning of the novel, Hester really felt down about her sin and her adultery that she committed, but I think towards the end, the Scarlet Letter brings her like a lot of wisdom and independence. Algo Fraley, in that article, says that in a lot of his novels, men are obsessed with and controlled by women, but Hawthorne makes his female characters his mouthpiece to convey some aspects of the role of women in the given society. So Hester was very different from her society because she was an outcast, she was isolated, but she really got over this and became more independent. When she says on 109, "This badge had taught me, it daily teaches me, and it's teaching me at this moment," saying that this letter bring her a lot of good things and bad things. Connecting with that, Nathaniel Hawthorne also explores Hester's psychology. She shows that as I already said, the woman being a powerful and usefulness, but it also shows her strength. And Algo Fraley in number three, he says that Hawthorne was so preoccupied by female psychology that he anticipated feminism many times, so he literally predicted what was going to happen after that. And then Hester kind of just took that under her wing and just accepted the A, as I already said, saying that the letter was her symbol of her calling and that so many people refused to interpret the Scarlet A by its original signification that it meant able. So strong was Hester Prynne with a woman's strength on page 160. To finish off this bad boy of a book, Hester's Scarlet Letter just stays with her. As I already mentioned, she just accepted the A, she committed her sin, she's out in the open with it. And I think that kind of symbolizes women's ongoing struggles, today and age. We're still on the path to go up, be treated equally, but yeah, it just turns into a source of strength. She says on 262 that women, more especially in continually recurring trials of the wounded, wasted, wrong, misplaced, or erring in sinful passion, Hester comforted and counseled them. She literally brought them in, told them it was okay. And Brown mentioned this also in his article when Hester conveys the difficulty of women in their service to progressive property. When Hester resumes wearing the letter, it does not homeopathically disappear. Since I just taught you all about womanhood in the Scarlet Letter, you guys should be all able to write a good old paper about it.
What's poppin', everybody? I'm Gabby, and I'm here to talk to you guys about the emotional effects that are displayed throughout the Scarlet Letter, specifically public shame and private guilt that the two characters, Hester Prynne and Dimsdale, experience. I'm going to be using the article Public Confession and the Scarlet Letter by Ernest W. Bowman and Shame, Conflicts, and Tragedy in the Scarlet Letter by Benjamin Kilbourne. Throughout the story, we can see how the two emotions shaped have a different impact on the different characters and also how it shapes the mind, body, and the soul throughout the story. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Don't keep watching if you don't want a spoiler alert. But Hester Prynne faces a lot of shame because she committed a sin that obviously follows her around with the A, and Dimsdale faces a lot of guilt because he is the father of Pearl, which is Hester's child. At the beginning of the book, Hester suffers with a lot of public shame as the A is placed on her, and she has to stand up on it in front of the whole town. Hawthorne says thus the young and pure would be taught to look at her with the Scarlet Letter flaming on her breast as the figure, the body, the reality of sin. So throughout the novel, Hester has to live with that and live with that identity, which she eventually grows out of, but it definitely plays an impact on how she lives emotionally. In Kilbourne's article about shame, he says, "In shame can be a fundamental reaction and a defense against a wrong feeling or being helpless in the face of an intensity feeling or being flooded by feelings one cannot understand. We can definitely see this in Dimsdale's personality as his identity becomes confusing a lot throughout the novel because he struggles with this moral right as being a preacher and also carrying the guilt in secret. It basically eats him away, not just emotionally, but physically. Hawthorne says on page 250, "It seemed hardly of the face of a man alive, such death-like hue, it was hardly a man with life in him, that tottered on his path so nervously."
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
In talking about shame, in Kilburn's article, he also talks about when shame stands for a loss of connection, it signals unbearable isolation. This was on page 481. And it relates to the story because shame isn't just an emotional pain, it's a social disconnection. And we can see that with Hester as she kind of creates an emotional and physical burden when she has to wear the A. And we see that after she removes it, when she's trying to gain her independence, it says, Hester heaved a long, deep sigh, and with the burden of shame departed from her spirit. Oh, exquisite relief. She had not known the weight until she felt the freedom. This is on page 201. We see the immediate effects as she's more happy, joyful, and overall herself again after she removes the A. And connecting to Dimsdale, there's a lack of ability for Dimsdale to connect to the community as he's a preacher and he deals with the guilt. Hawthorne says, it is inconceivable the agony with which the public veneration tortured him, basically just talking about the contradiction that he feels as he appears to be somebody who's a man of God, but deep down he knows that he's a sinner. So this relates to how he isolates himself to everybody. On the topic of guilt, in Bowman's article on page 540, Dimsdale's guilt is known to only Hester and Chillingsworth, neither of whom will disclose it. This reminds us that having to experience shame and conflict in secret as Dimsdale and Hester constantly go back and forth, and Dimsdale feels as if he has it more difficult because he's hiding the guilt in secret, as he mentions on the quote that Alex talked about on page 191.
Cue the quote. Happy are you, Hester, that wear the scarlet upon your bosom? Mine burns in secret.
As we know, shame, guilt, emotion played a big role in the Scarlet Letter, and it would be a darn shame if you did not write an essay about this. So, have fun, get to writing. Have a great day. Peace and love.
So, what have we learned about the Scarlet Letter?
So we learned that the Scarlet Letter isn't just about sin, even though that's the main topic, but it's also about emotion, womanhood, ambiguity, and how they create a deeper meaning. For me personally, I talked about shame and guilt, and I definitely learned that those two emotions can eat somebody alive, and that they can also create conflict to a certain extent. What'd you guys learn?
Oh, my topic, womanhood. You know, Hester, real girl, grew up through the novel, and just handled her emotions really well.
Well, I learned that ambiguity and double meaning really engages the reader to interpret the meaning for themselves.
Hawthorne message still matters today, though, guys. Society still judges us, emotions still define us, and symbols still hold double meanings. Whoever's learning.
So next time, take a closer look at the symbols, emotions, and voices in the Scarlet Letter. Because like Hawthorne shows us, the real meaning is always more than what's seen on the surface.
Thank you so much for listening and watching, and don't forget to
Subscribe and share with all your friends.
and smash that notification bell right here, right on Alex's head. Anyways,
Roll out!